Jeff Shake sent me some kind of bottle of wine.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I can hear Howard Stern. All right, now I just hear Joe.
Yeah, all right, that's off.
Test. You can hear me, right?
Hey, everybody. My name is Eugene Driscoll, and I'm the co-host of Navel Gazing, the Valley Indies podcast. But this is also a podcast. It's dual. It's a crossover. This is also a podcast of the Mobile Horror Companion. I know that can be confusing to people. So what we'll do is I'm going to explain it at first. There's this podcast called the Mobile Horror Companion, of which I am a member, and we talk about horror movies twice a month. Then there's this other podcast called Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy Podcast, which I do once a week, and that is a local news podcast in the lower Naugatuck Valley of the great state of Connecticut. Almost everybody involved in those two podcasts are now on the line with me. We have with me Mr. Joe Greenberg, a screenwriter. Hello, Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
And then we have, I think we just woke him up. I don't know if he has heat or not. He had some heating problems, some furnace issues. Is Mr. Brian Spears, a special effects makeup artist. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
So now we're going to go into the podcast, and I'm going to play the themes of both our podcasts, starting with the Valley Indy. This podcast is sponsored by valleygivesback.org. What will you be remembered for? Name a Valley nonprofit in your estate plan and create a legacy that tells future generations what mattered to you. Making a gift that costs nothing during your lifetime is easy and revocable if things change. With a planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Your action inspires others to make a difference in their own way. Remember the Valley. Ask your accountant, financial planner, or attorney about planned giving options. Plan now. Give later. Impact tomorrow. Learn more at valleygivesback.org.
For hundreds of years we've brought you the news. Printed the info, we gave you the clues. Owners' profits were always sky high. Changing market now threatens our lives. Post-literation, critical reading, dumbed down nation, signs of
Okay, so that just happened. So this very special episode of Navel Gazing / Mobile Horror Companion, or for legal reasons, Mobile Horror Companion / Navel Gazing, we're talking about the mid-season finale of The Walking Dead, and I got to throw it right to Brian. Brian, what'd you think of that? It was captivating.
I loved it, man. I loved it. Holy cow! Of course, I didn't watch it.
Did you watch any of it, Brian?
I mean, I watched, I think, up to season 4, maybe.
No, I meant tonight's show, Brian. You didn't watch?
Of course not.
I
thought I couldn't reach the remote, and then I fell asleep because some of us have to make TV at 4 a.m.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning too that when the show first came out, we started off all of us loving it, and then it kind of has broken all of our hearts in certain ways. And Brian, you used to watch it with your niece, and it was almost like it seemed like almost like required family viewing for a while there. So it's not like you never liked the show. You were a fan, and then
I haven't liked it since season 2.
Okay.
It just kind of breaks my heart. It would have been so fascinating, though, to someone who hasn't liked the show in that long and hasn't watched it in that long, and who's part of a mobile, a horror movie podcast. It would have been fascinating to hear Brian's reaction.
The minute Joe said he was good, going to, be on this thing, I was like, I don't have to watch this thing tonight because I wasn't going. Like, here's the thing, guys. It's not fair to me. I'm jumping in halfway through a season, having not watched 2 seasons. I saw whatever poster I saw.
That would have been that would have made this podcast above and beyond. That's
the my reaction purpose to what it.
Yeah,
it's completely unrecognizable.
My
now.
goal was to have
saw-
someone who watched the Walking Dead in the good old days react to tonight's episode. That would have been something different, but you have ruined that for me.
Oh, all right. I ruined it. All right. Well, then I'll let you guys go. I'll see you later.
The hurt is too deep.
Is your furnace working now or not?
Yes.
All right, good. So you did some manual labor today.
Yesterday.
All right. So I think before we can talk about, by we, I mean Joe and I guess, tonight's mid-season finale of The Walking Dead, we got to go back 2 episodes to what was arguably the most, I want to say hyped, but probably the most important, I guess, episode in the history of the show, which debuted in 2010, and that was the, spoiler alert, I should say that right off the bat, don't listen to this if you haven't watched, I mean, other than Brian, if you haven't watched this show, don't listen to anything we're going to say from this point on. But 2 episodes ago, we lost, I'll say, Rick Grimes.
Yes.
And I just thought, I'm going to throw it to Joe for his reaction, but I thought that was probably the worst. Weighed against my expectations, the worst hour of television I've ever watched in a show I liked.
Yes. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was the worst. It definitely wasn't the worst ever episode of Walking Dead.
I would say that.
Okay. Well, just, leading up to that, I think the episodes of this season are, there's a new showrunner this year, and it does feel, it's nowhere near what it once was. And there's way too many characters now, and the scope of it is kind of taking on this whole new thing. But, when Brian was a fan of the show and watching the show, and we all loved it at the same time, it was this small group of people that were just in terror every week. And they didn't know what they were going to do. It was great. So take all of that and lead it up to the loss of Rick. And they did hype it up like for weeks, saying, oh, only 2 more weeks until Rick is his final episode. And I thought that they were just going to kill him, and they went that way. And it almost felt like a cheat, that
yet another cheat from this show.
The bridge blows up, hundreds of these things are incinerated, but somehow Rick is flung downriver, not even burned, and no one thinks to look for, it just didn't, I don't know, it was hard, it defied logic of how it even was set up.
And also before that, when he goes on his journey on his horse and he's injured and all that, I mean, just when Sasha shows up out of the blue, you're like, oh,
yeah.
Sasha? I mean, some of this is old news, but in tonight's episode, there was suddenly a commercial for the latest Star Trek. I don't know. I guess you have to buy Nike shoes and then activate your shoes like Get Smart or something like that, and you can watch somewhere CBS has a latest iteration, whatever it is, the latest episode of Star Trek is out there starring Sasha. So I was that's why they brought her. Right, it's there. Whatever, you have to hop on 2 legs and look under your daughter's ballerina shoes to watch it. But it's an advertising. It's like a marketing thing. That's why Sasha. I'm being very cynical, but that made me think. Oh, that's why she was in that random flashback. It's like who are the most important characters in the history of The Walking Dead to Rick Grimes? I mean, obviously Brian's buddy. What's his name? Shane, right?
John Bernthal.
I guess maybe Herschel and Sasha. Like right above his wife would be Sasha.
And I don't know. It didn't seem like he and Sasha. She didn't seem like she was like a newcomer, right. Like all those other people.
She was what?
The cheapest one to get.
I guess yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but they all showed up. I mean, Bernthal's probably the only one who's kind of gone with the Punisher, is going on to, in the immediate future after the show and done something big. But there were elements of that episode that I liked. I loved that scene with him and Shane in the car, and they talked about, Judith, and he says, in kind of a male, I'm just gonna, I don't know, we have to keep our language clean for this, but just kind
don't
of
curse, for the love of God, don't curse.
Just kind of like a guy.
We're sponsored by valleygivesback.org. Hey, this is Eugene, most likely interrupting myself to bring you a word from our sponsor, valleygivesback.org. What will you be remembered for? Name a Valley nonprofit in your estate plan and create a legacy that tells future generations what matter to you. Making a gift that costs nothing during your lifetime is easy and revocable if things change. With a planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Your action inspires others to make a difference in their own way. Remember the Valley. Ask your accountant, financial planner, or attorney about planned giving options. Plan now. Give later. Impact tomorrow. Learn more at valleygivesback.org.
Yeah, but Shane is, kind of teasing him like, oh, how is my little girl? And that's the thing, like, was Judith Shane's daughter or not? And Rick finally acknowledged that there was, even the possibility of that. And I just love their exchange. So there were parts of it that I liked. And Eugene, I know you don't like dream sequences or things like that, and this was very much waking dreams. But a couple of those things I did, I don't know if they were building up to him dying, but it didn't. It felt like it when he gets airlifted out to this thing where you don't understand any of what's happening. And remind me, when we get done talking about this, I have a crazy conspiracy theory about one of these, where Rick is going to land first in his one of 3 made-for-AMC spin-off movies of The Walking Dead.
Right, you gotta love AMC. They just don't care. They're making this
to happen.
You don't think it'll ever happen?
One.
Listen, I don't know, but I just think The Walking Dead has 3 more years, if that. And 3 more years just because AMC, they need to do another. They're going to be grasping for so long because I think this is the biggest thing they did. They should have ended the series when Rick left.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems that the show is hemorrhaging viewers. Like, that's always the news, and it's you always read about the decline. So it's got and Fear the Walking Dead. The numbers have never been anywhere near.
I think that Fear is another issue. The minute they started that show was the end of The Walking Dead.
Well, yeah, I don't know. And they hyped Fear to be something different. Like, it was supposed to be, oh, this is a prequel to Walking Dead. You're going to watch the world fall apart and see what happens. And it wasn't. That was an episode and a half. And then the next thing you know, it's just Walking Dead, but on the West Coast. Like, I don't know. It just didn't. I've never been able to get into that show. And Walking Dead, as much as, I think, for Eugene and I, it seems to be, like the sadistic thing where we watch it and
it's hate watching.
Kind of hate. Yeah, it's hate watching and hate tweeting.
Yeah, I tried that tonight. I was probably really annoying. I mean, valleyindy.org is a local news site, and usually I'm posting about like ZBA meetings, and I went all Walking Dead, which I don't know if it made people angry or not.
Well, I imagine Valley Indy has an entertainment section or something like that you guys do, right? Did you file it under that?
Joe, nobody has an entertainment section. No, it's 2018. That's what the internet's for. But I mean, I don't think. I think they're gonna. The Walking Dead is AMC at this point. They have so much invested in it. I don't think.
But I think they're going to. AMC needs it. That's why it'll be on for 3 years.
I think 10. They're going to do the whole 10. This thing will be on forever. I think because even though it's hemorrhaging, it's losing viewers. It's still very well watched for an AMC show, at least.
And also, in this day and age of binging, how you can't judge any of that stuff. You know what I mean? It might be lower the ratings overnight, but that doesn't mean somebody didn't TiVo it, download it, watch it the next day.
Well, they are incorporating some of that stuff into how many whatever they do. The Nielsen company does incorporate some of that into it, and even that's dropping off from what I've read. But I thought the worst thing about that Rick Grimes episode was not even the dream sequences, which I was expecting. I knew that was coming, so I had prepared myself for that. But it just fell apart for me. I was even okay with Rick Grimes being carried away in a helicopter. I was okay. All right, there's something. All right, I don't know. Maybe we'll never find out. But when you see all of a sudden that it was almost like a post-credit sequence where this new group of people come stumbling onto the screen.
Oh no, that was the last 15 minutes of that episode.
It was just so it didn't
awful. End them leaving.
I guess it traumatized me because I thought it was, when I first saw them, I was like, oh Lord, this is that stupid webisode, the red knife or
the red machete. Yeah.
The people on the plane, I was like, oh, are they seriously doing this? They're going to like sell me an app for the last, couple of minutes of the show. I thought that was terrible. And then I thought like not the literal, but the jump the shark moment was, quote, I'm Judith Grimes, unquote. That was terrible. I've never watched a show that I liked. Even Dexter, the whole thing just fell apart for me there. And I haven't been a fan for a couple of seasons now, probably going back to season 5, I'll say. But I just lost it there. That was the single dumbest moment I've ever seen on television for a show that I've religiously watched, like made it, appointment TV. I just thought that was so terrible. And even like just everything about it. She fires that hand cannon, and I tweeted, I think I asked you, Joe, I was like, wait, if she fired that thing, wouldn't that literally take her head off just for the kickback and the recoil from that? I mean, that's like a huge gun.
Yes.
So everything about that. Ugh.
Yeah, I had a couple of problems with that. First and foremost is I seem to have this weird obsessive hatred of that hat, the sheriff's hat that Rick wore, and it just got ratty, and then Carl kept wearing, and when Carl finally got rid of it, I was like, okay, thank God it's over. And then when they gave her the hat, and I was just thinking that girl would not remember Rick. She would not remember her brother. It would just be stories. She would only know Michonne. She would call her mom, and that would be it. And she'd be like, yeah, but I don't think she'd have any attachment to that kind of stuff. And what you're saying about that gun is absolutely right. Like that's a 357 with I think like a 4-inch barrel. So fully loaded, that gun probably weighs 3 pounds. And she wouldn't be able to aim that, like hold it level. This 9-year-old girl that probably weighs.
She in the flashback?
She's like, is she 12?
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely preteen. I'd say like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range.
She's between 10 and 12, but closer. Yeah, she's a little kid. And, they show her holding the gun again when she's on the steps, and you can tell it's like propped against, her arm is propped against her neck. There's no way she'd be able to fire that weapon. But that's also like another problem that I have with the show is how they deal with guns and the stabbing of these things in the head. Like take a knife and try and stab a bowling ball. That's what it would be like to try. Like you can't stab somebody in the skull.
But Joe, if you're dead and walking around, your head is like a cantaloupe ripe, it would actually break a little bit easier.
Apparently.
But then if we jump ahead, all right, so tonight was the mid-season finale. If we jump ahead just one episode, another scene that just made me laugh out loud was when, I believe his name is Aaron, just out of the blue, tackles Jesus as Jesus is riding a horse.
Yeah.
Which was like Cato versus the Inspector Clouseau from Blake Edwards' Pink Panther movies in 1982. That was unbelievably bad. I couldn't believe what these people get paid to make this crap.
Also, as a guy that like knows a little bit about the comic, has not watched the show in a while, to have a character named Jesus that looks like Jesus, I don't know, like call him something else. Well,
spoiler alert, guess who died tonight? Allegedly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's going to come back in 3 days, guys.
I will not be pouring one out for Jesus.
On Talking Dead as we sat down to record this.
Well, once you appear on that, you're definitely dead, right?
Yeah.
The other things about that episode was just real quickly, Daryl's dog, ridiculous. Daryl got a German Shepherd. Just the epitome.
He's gone full Road Warrior.
Just yeah, right. So dumb.
Yeah.
But that's the other problem.
The whole character of Henry.
All right, sorry.
The whole character of Henry, and then at the end of that episode before the mid-season finale, they do that drone shot of the hilltop where they've got these crops, and to me it just said like, look at the set we built. Look at they do that a lot now on that show. They seemed really proud of all the crap they built. It's like they're to me it's like the influence of The Vitch. That horror movie where it's all about how things, hey, they could almost smell our socks in 1885. I don't get it.
I don't know if you saw when we were tweeting back and forth there. One of the things, just their outfits and even that like copper chest piece that I don't understand the body armor that they have.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense, and all of them don't have it. But just for the clothes, and I said, I think this time next year, this show is just going to be full on Ren Fair. Like it.
Which is literally apparently is Ezekiel the king. Like fast forwarding to this latest episode, there's all this talk of this fair they have to have. There's been some type of animosity among the different good guy communities, and Ezekiel feels and Carol feels if they'll bring this fair, if they can bring the communities together with a fair. And I'm like, is it going to be George Romero Knight Riders? What are you talking about?
It sounds like they're ripping off another Romero movie.
Oh, Lord, like that. If they're jousting on BMX or whatever KRX 80s from the 80s. I'm gonna like eat my shoe, and I'm just look at some other stuff. Like the new people are awful. No one cares. Franchise. I wrote the word franchise in capital letters. The doctor. Who cares? The fair. Who cares? Anyway.
Okay. Well, Eugene, I'm gonna challenge you to this because I think we can both come up with a long list of negatives from tonight's episode. Was there anything in it that you liked, or say something positive?
I said
not sarcastic positive.
Well, I did. I was surprised. I said, "Oh my God!" Carol mentioned Sophia in tonight's mid-season finale, just in passing. You never know that her daughter went missing and was then found in a barn. By her mom as a zombie. That never seems to come back into play into this show.
So the show had heart. It's when you cared about something.
Yeah, that was a big moment in the show, and it's never really been brought up as far as I know. But it was mentioned in passing tonight. I also like the character of Eugene. I like him. I love when he comes on and throws some of that AMC 10 Tiers Below Deadwood dialogue.
That's what I hate.
See, I kind of like that. He's this guy from another show. He was like rejected from Deadwood a couple of years ago, but he got on the Walking Dead set in Georgia. So, yeah, those are some things that I liked. But tonight's episode, really not much to like. I got to be honest with you. And I was trying. I felt bad for Chandler Riggs. They killed off Carl, and basically, it seems to me, they replaced him with a cheaper version. The Henry kid is Carl.
Oh, yeah.
That's the same character. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's to get younger viewers. Now he has friends.
I saw my mom cry today. She's so tough, Before that, I was just too excited to really think and understand that this is a huge deal.
And a girl that's his own age who wears kind of like nerdy glasses, where you get them 15 years after the apocalypse. Like, I don't know. It's just a huge... There's so many leaps that just kind of don't make sense or you think wouldn't go that way. Like the fact that Daryl can still find gasoline for this motorcycle. I don't know.
Or how about Daryl is randomly
gum for his hair?
Right,
what are you talking about? Like,
he did get a slight haircut, which that was kind of amusing in the episode before the mid-season finale. Carol gave Daryl the slightest of haircuts, like cut one bang. Which I guess
just took off his split ends.
Yeah, that must be like an in joke. That must be Norman Reedus just doesn't let his hair get caught. But the other thing about like tonight's episode was where Daryl randomly pulls out like a 1972 alarm clock. And he just happens to be carrying it. Maybe he was thinking, I'm going to build a bomb. What was that? He just happens to be carrying around an old-fashioned alarm clock that he throws at the this new band of quote unquote talking walkers, which was another.
Well, but
that's the new walker, the talking walker.
Well, spoiler alert.
They shouldn't have doubled back like that, and they definitely shouldn't have followed us all the way to the barn.
I do have a theory to posit. The walkers are evolving.
Well, that's bullshit. They're dead. They're not evolving.
Being dead hasn't exactly stopped them from perambulating ad infinitum, though, has it? They're not dead in any sense that makes sense. It takes an impact to the cranium to stop them, which means the brain is alive. Degraded as it may be, and if it's alive, it can change. Maybe it can start to remember things, too. I can't even talk.
What? It's not any crazier than the dead being alive in the first place. If they can learn to talk, maybe they can learn strategy and how to hunt.
They're right on our asses. We gotta get to the horses fast. You have to leave me behind.
Yeah, that's the new... They're people that are dressed in dead skin that are hiding among the walkers and guiding them.
That was the big reveal. It's the Whisperers, I guess. Is that what they're called? The Whisperers?
Yeah, so they're people, but it's an enemy that kind of hides among.
It's another wolf or another group and another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
it's another Terminus. We all remember Terminus.
See, that's the show. That's the season I stopped where they went to Terminus, the opening episode. And they ended Terminus in one episode that they spent the entire season looking for.
That was awful.
Yeah.
It was after that I was just like, all right. And as a guy that does makeup, I love the zombies and the walkers and the looks, and they throw in like throwback zombies to other movies. They've put in characters from American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
You know, they put in tribute zombies, makeups. But I can't watch a show just for that, and it seems that's the
and that is rare. That's in there, but those are rare. That's one every 3 episodes you see something like that, and it's 2 seconds.
Yeah, in tonight's episode, at the very end, spoiler alert, they rip off one of the zombies' masks, and I just tweeted, "It's Leatherface! Leatherface has been brought into the Walking Dead world." But
yeah, I don't know, and I also I don't know if you saw this, but when it got really foggy and they're in that cemetery, I'm like, they somehow stumbled into a 1930s Universal horror movie.
Oh, I was thinking Hammer Films. I'm like, what is going on? Oh, they got a new set. Great. They're showing off their new set. Brilliant. Yeah, that was...
But they're like, it's real thick fog, but they're firing off those arrows and, and hitting every shot. Like, I don't know. That's the stuff that...
Is there anything scary in these shows anymore?
Before we found out that these Whisperer guys were humans that are in this pack of zombies, they kind of led you to believe that the zombies were evolving. There was something going on among them, and that for the first time, like in years, they were scared as they were running away from these zombies. Or
they bring out the zombies when they need to, kind of thing. It's like all of a sudden the zombies are a threat. You know what I mean? And then you go like forever, it seems, where they're no threat at all. And I don't know. I guess the question is like, Brian.
Let me just real quick. To me, once those shows went to 16 episodes. When they started doing 13 episodes, you always had 2 episodes that didn't matter. But now it seems like you have, with a 16-episode season, you have at least now 4 to 5 episodes that don't matter.
I felt like tonight's show did not matter, to be honest with you. So I knew they were going to introduce the Whisperers eventually, and I'm just kind of like, just get to it.
No. I think it did matter because they introduced that enemy and they discovered, what it is about them. But also,
it's just like gets out of the cell. It's like how Dexter would have to face a new serial killer every season. Yeah. You're kind of like, all right, same thing.
They won't resolve this till 3 episodes before the end. You know what I mean? Like, once it starts up again.
The other big thing that happened tonight, which I didn't even realize it was happening, when Negan walks out of his cell somehow, which I don't even... I was looking away. What happened there, Joe? He's bouncing a tennis ball? Emo Hannibal Lecter?
Ball, kind of Steve McQueen in Great Escape style, because he's got a glove to catch a tennis ball for whatever. And the ball trips out of the cell, and then he notices it's like windy outside and it's rattling, so it's not locked, it's not secure. So he just gets up, pushes on it, it opens, and he picks up the tennis ball, then tosses it to the side and walks out. So, immediately before that, well, not immediately, but earlier, Gabriel was talking to him and says, keep looking to see if there's something good in you, and there's not. But before that, there was that weird, he's doing that, the vibration thing where it's, I don't even know what to describe it, but he's got that metal thing that's making like the wah, 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 wah. And he's like, be calm. Like he's trying like meditation. The Christian minister is trying like Far East meditation. But it was just so odd, so
unnecessary.
Off the wall.
Like, yeah. So I guess Negan's out again. I put on our Facebook page before. Actually, it was at this point. It's like 6 hours ago. I put a key question: has The Walking Dead jumped the shark? If so, when? And then I asked, is it still something you watch? Perhaps. So anyway, John Amenta, I don't know if I'm saying that right. He's
from Pina Comics.
Yeah, Pina Comics. I think he's Johnny Ganache, right?
Yeah, a friend of the podcast.
He said he gave up after season 4, just didn't care. And I think that was the Terminus season where they finally get to Terminus. I could be wrong, though. Then a guy named Rich Smith says, it jumped the shark when Glenn hid under a dumpster. I totally forgot about that.
Oh yeah.
Where he died twice that season.
Yep.
Yeah.
After that, everything became inconsequential. Also, the amount of filler and art house style episodes seemed to increase. That's those episodes, like you said, he just backed up your point, Brian, when it went to 16 episodes and you have those extra episodes that don't mean anything. They're all trying to be that one Breaking Bad episode where they're just trying to find the fly, the imperfection in their friggin' meth lab. So,
but that was so well written that, like, I mean, you can't even compare.
No, what I'm saying is that
they
did that so well,
I
and then you have all these poor man's version. They all feel they have to have that episode.
For me, and I mean, and I'm not saying
Rich Smith still has things to say. He said he stopped watching the season after Negan became the big villain. Matt Maisto, another friend of the podcast, said, I stopped watching after the season with the governor, but I stopped caring after Frank Darabont left, who is still suing his lawsuit. He has 2 lawsuits pending against AMC. Both are still pending in court. Right? $300 million lawsuits. Also, Gail Ann Hurd, the producer, the former producer or the current producer, I don't really know. I don't want to speak out of turn. She also either filed a lawsuit or said she was going to file a lawsuit last year saying she got cut out of the profits. Everybody should listen to the Mark Maron WTF podcast with her. She's pretty awesome. And then I'll just throw it to you after this. Matt Maisto also said a second spin-off show will come and go, which in my mind should be called The Smell of the Walking Dead. Before those lawsuits have concluded.
It'll be the third spin-off show because you got to think Talking Dead's another spin-off.
Right, yeah. Chris Hardwick
that's a wrap-up show.
Refuses to die. Well, it's a commercial is what it is.
That's a great place for fans.
It's a commercial.
AMC, I get it. They want this thing to last forever. But you know what? There's something said to like an HBO show where you know you got 5 years, maybe, hopefully. You know, a lot of the HBO shows that I admired went 5 seasons or maybe, around that, where you knew there was going to be an end. And maybe the other thing is, this is just so popular that the Walmart crowd sort of has taken it over. And I don't think, before it was the horror show and it was cool and it was different. Now that it's so mainstream, the guys wearing Duck Dynasty shirts are also wearing Walking Dead shirts. It's
become a franchise. I've been rereading that Raging Bull. What's it called, Brian?
Oh, Easy Rider Raging Bull, man.
Easy Rider Raging Bull. Easy Riders. Like it's plural. Yes. Raging Bulls. Yes. I went back and been rereading that, and it's all about
chapter. There's a chapter where they go to a party and it's all these celebrities and they're trying to free Huey Newton. I think that would be one of the greatest movies ever.
It's all about
the guys that made 5 Easy Pieces, all the producers, that BBS, they're all like, yeah, let's free the guy. Let's take him, do political asylum with the guy. Oh, I think it would be the greatest movie, but all right, sorry about that.
The whole book is about, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Hal Ashby, everybody that came up, Brian De Palma, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, how they came up in the 70s. And it has either interviews with them or it takes interviews that they did at the time and sort of tracks their rise and fall. And a lot of them have risen again. But it concludes with, the studios going to comic book movies. And this whole idea of the and this is in the book concludes with Hal Ashby's death in 1982. He made Being There and Harold and Maude, I believe. So it ends with his death. He's the last, true renegade of the 70s, apparently. But it's interesting. The book's quite old now, but just going back and how it's so relevant today, how everything now, and that's my problem with The Walking Dead. I just smell that its goal is to be a franchise above and beyond anything else. It's not about where the story takes you. Sort of like a David Simon show, like you said, Brian, has a beginning, middle, and end, where this is just how much can we churn out of this? You know what I mean? It's like a meat grinder.
It's about money. It's not about story anymore.
So my question is, I'll just say personally, I feel like now after tonight's episode and this season and the I am what's her name Grimes,
Judith.
I was like Susan. I'm Judith Grimes. I just feel like now this is a show. I always loved zombie movies as a horror movie fan, although not as devoted as you guys or as knowledgeable as you guys. Zombies were always my thing, man. Dawn of the Dead is like, that's it. That's the greatest. I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm not going to watch this show every Sunday because it's just too frustrating. I'm just going to let it run its course and I'm going to watch it on Netflix. And I think it'll be more enjoyable to sort of stream it and not have any expectations about it and just revisit it whenever. I can't make it appointment television anymore because it's just so frustrating to me. So I'm wondering if, Joe, are you at that point yet? Or what point are you at, I guess I'm trying to ask.
I didn't actively say, no, I'm completely done, but I don't remember, we talked about, okay, when do you, you're reading the emails about when people were saying that it jumped the shark. And for me, and I'm not saying that I didn't think the show had kind of fallen off before this point, but the point where I was so frustrated with it, where I almost stopped watching, was the King's CGI tiger.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where they were running away, and the tiger saves them at the last minute. And I remember thinking right then, this show hasn't jumped the shark; it's jumped the tiger. And I didn't actively say, no, I'm not going to watch it anymore. Like, a point needs to be made. But at the beginning of this season, I just didn't tune into I was busy with something else and I didn't watch the premiere, and then I was doing some other stuff and I wasn't making the effort to kind of go back and watch it. And I knew if a season went by and I didn't watch it, or I got to this point, the mid-season, and had not watched it, I would have just let the show go, Like, I would have let the body float away, so to speak. And the only reason that I went, and I did go back and binge it, was because we were trying for Rick's final. We were trying to do this episode where we're recording it immediately after The Walking Dead. We're hoping to try and get together to do this after Rick, his final episode, to talk about our reaction to that. And that's when I went back and binged to catch up, so I could watch it, so we'd be able to talk about it. But to be honest, I'm glad that we didn't do that. Because we would have missed the announcement on Talking Dead afterwards. That I don't know if you watched it, Eugene, but I did.
No, I did see that. Yeah, or maybe I read it the next day. I don't remember. Actually.
Yeah, Scott Gimple said, there's going to be 3 made-for-AMC movies starring Rick, and they're going to do other things. There'll be things going. Like, he made it seem like they're really expanding the universe, and it's going to go in a lot of different directions. But yeah, I mean, that's when I started. I don't know. I always felt bad about, because you could tweet as the show's going on, and I kind of always felt bad about hate tweeting it. And after that, that removed all remorse. I was like, they just cheated us one too many times. Like, it was just like, what do you mean the computer generated tie? And it was just so. And you see how it started and how it was such a great. And I think back to the episode where Rick killed Shane, which, I was watching that holding my breath. It was so good. And
or is it just that scene where Sophia comes out of the barn?
Yeah. And even when
when Norman Reedus was kind of cool.
Yeah, but Norman Reedus and
also back then, the problem is now no one can die on the show. They have to bring in a whole new cast just to die.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying Jesus just died? Jesus died about 27 episodes too late.
Right, yeah.
Is the Aaron guy the other guy they met in the barn the one time and before Terminus? If that guy's still on the show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's like Kato. He's the guy that trains. He became a ninja with Jesus. It's ridiculous. It's really bad.
His beard matched Jesus' man bun. They were...
Yeah, there's a lot of beards, a lot of different. Anyway,
can I tell you before we wrap this up? Can I tell you my conspiracy theory on what this first Rick Grimes spinoff movie is going to be?
Oh yeah.
All right, here's my logic behind this.
It's going to be really bad. That's my guess.
When you see what I'm referencing, you're immediately going to roll your eyes.
It's going to be a musical.
Okay, so I forget her character's name, but it's Pollyanna McIntosh, the garbage woman that gets Rick out of it.
Jaden, I think, or something like that.
Yes, Jadus, maybe.
All right, maybe.
So she's been radioing this helicopter, and the guy's like, do you have like an A or a B or a 1 or 2 or whatever it is? And she's, says, oh, I thought he was an A. And it makes no sense. So you immediately are like, I have no idea what she said. This was worse than the garbage lingo that she had when she was living at the dump. But she says, when she gets Rick, saves him from the thing, oh, I have an A or whatever it is. And they lift him out, helicopter him out. Earlier in that episode, when he was running, he goes off the road and he finds, sanctuary in this like cabin where he holds up for a little while and falls asleep and bleeds. The name on the mailbox, and they drew attention to this, was Cardle. And immediately I said, oh, that's like Laurie Cardle, who was the star of Day of the Dead. And then they kind of never go back to it, but I just thought it was one of those Easter egg things, which it probably is. So whatever, it ends, she helicopters away, and then I'm watching Talking Dead, and they have the little quiz, on Talking Dead when it goes to commercial. And one of the questions was, what was the name on the mailbox when they went? And, immediately I'm like, I wasn't playing on my phone because I can never get it up in time. But I said, oh, it was Cardle. That's Lori. And Cassie, my wife, was there. And I said, that's the woman from Day of the Dead. Remember, I made you watch that, and you were angry and left halfway through the movie.
In Night of the Living Dead is Chili Billy Cardille.
Right, that's right. And when it gave the answer in the thing, that's what it mentioned. It said, oh, it was, this was an actor that had a cameo in Night of the Living Dead. Didn't even mention Laurie Cardle at all.
Because
so there's no reference.
Her father was.
Well, but not as far as, the Romero universe is concerned. Like, she was Romero.
That's the only reason she got the job, Joe. Joe, you just like Day of the Dead. That movie stinks.
Well, Romero said that was his favorite of the original trilogy. So you can hate me for liking it all you want, but she was important in that movie. All right, let me just finish my theory, because you're just hating on that movie. That movie opens up with them helicoptering around looking for survivors to take back. Now, the original script that Romero had that he wanted to produce but couldn't get the money involved them training these zombies, and there were different ones that had like letters or numbers painted on them, depending on how well they were reacting to the training. So my big conspiracy theory, thinking about all that, is this first movie that he's going to be in is some kind of realization or version of that original Romero script for Day of the Dead, where they were helicoptering around looking for survivors that involved some kind of, naming or numbering of whatever these things were. Something to that effect. She's going to some kind of military bunker with Rick.
I'm riveted.
Walking Dead will rip off Romero once again, and the guy will never see money. The guy will never get his due.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he's not worried about it now.
No, he's definitely not now.
All right, let's end it on
Eugene,
that.
Were you actually riveted, or were you just patronizing me?
No, I wasn't. I know it's hard to tell, but no, I was like, oh man, we should have said that. We should have done that like a week ago. But I'm thinking of like search engine optimization and all that garbage.
Oh, okay.
But
well, yeah. So that's my theory, and
that's cool.
And I would love to see that. So some kind of version, because I do think.
My thing is, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm with Brian. I hate Day of the Dead, and I would like to see it. There's a movie that could be remade and made better. So if they were like,
but they remade it and it was awful, and then they remade it again and it was even worse.
Yeah. So now if The Walking Dead takes a stab with Rick, and it's like, oh, that's the concept. I would love it if they just came out and said, look, actually, we're remaking Day of the Dead in 3 different parts. That would be awesome. As long as the kill off the garbage talker in like episode 1, 5 seconds in, you know what I mean?
But I do think if they make these one-off movies, that they can get some serious talent in it to do like an AMC.
Yeah, but dude, here's the thing. Then end Walking Dead. See, this is the problem. You're filtering stories that could be into your TV show. Listen, the guy's not going to want to play Rick Grimes again, even for a movie, even for the amount of money the AMC might throw at him. I just don't think. Like, the guy's moved on. Like, that was... He was humbling them. They were humbling him. Like, I just don't see... And here's the other problem. By doing all that, they're taking away from actually maybe coming up with a good screenplay or a good, story for their actual show. Rather than break all this stuff up and spin all this stuff off, go back to the writer's room and write good TV.
But
That's the problem.
but there's some ideas that work better in a movie form than they do in a television form, and vice versa. Like,
They don't care about content. They care about money right now.
But like, if you can make a 90-minute movie, which is what it would be a 90-minute movie that aired over 2 hours on AMC. I'm just assuming. If you came up with a good, concise 90-minute movie, it's Rick Grimes doing this, and then he's out, or we all know he's not going to die until he gets through his AMC trilogy, or at the very least, he'll leave it open, and then if the show's still going on, he'll cycle back, and him and Rita will ride off into the sunset, bromance style.
The end of the Shawshank Redemption.
The audience, that's my issue with it. It's sure they can make a good 2-hour movie, Joe. You are correct about that, but
I don't know that it helps the show, him leaving. I think if he left and you just followed him and the show continued and he left all this, the kingdom and the hockey pads and the Negan still sitting and left all that behind, and you almost had like a governor situation where that season, I wanted to see a whole season of what that guy did after he was like chased out and got new people to come back with him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's ideas that work better as movies and there's ideas that work better as shows, and I don't think they're losing anything by doing this way. In fact, I think if it's going to survive, if it does keep, if it's all tied to Walking Dead, the TV show, and it continues to hemorrhage viewers, they either need to wrap it up or they need to go all in, and it looks like they're going all in. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do. I'll be pleasantly surprised if it's like solid and great, but at the same time, I don't know. It's this franchise has kind of slapped us around a bit, and I'm cautiously optimistic, but I don't want to have my heart broken again.
I can't wait for the reboot starring like Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande in like 5 years. That'll be awesome.
I think he'd be great on that show.
It'll be a young Rick Grimes. They're going to show Rick Grimes as a teenager going through all this.
Rick Grimes, the origin story.
You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
All right.
Spidey powers, and it'll save the day.
Say that again.
Just give them some Spidey powers, and they can make a whole other franchise.
All right, I'm going to try to edit this together. We're at the 45-minute mark. Now, Brian, you didn't like The Apostle?
I didn't love it. No, I mean, listen, I thought it was better than The Vitch. I find that guy Dan Stevens annoying.
Who's he?
He's the lead actor.
Oh, I never saw him. I don't know who that guy was.
He was in The Guest that everyone loves.
This is a movie on Netflix that I just watched the other day for anybody who... It's a horror movie that takes place in like...
action of it. Well, you didn't like the Kurt Russell Christmas movie.
That was awful. The Kurt Russell Christmas movie is an abomination. It's terrible.
Would your kids like it, though?
No, they hated it. They were totally bored by it. It's awful. It's awful. Everything about it is awful. It's an 80s movie that's just bad.
I didn't watch this. I walked out during the sing-along.
Right, where Kurt Russell, he pulls out his Elvis impersonation from like the John Carpenter days, I guess.
But I thought he was better in that than he was in that Quentin Tarantino Death Proof.
Well, no. Don't watch that Kurt Russell Christmas movie. It's just it's
that sounds like a whole episode. That's a whole other episode we can argue about.
Yeah,
that.
I guess it's a horror movie. It is horrible.
If you want to see a good, I think I mentioned this last time that we were all together online, but The Girl with All the Gifts I thought was a great zombie movie with Glenn Close. Kind of does something different, has some cool zombies in it. They're like a Fulci zombies. If you're a horror fan, you'll know what that means. But it was something different, and I like that. And also, I just watched last night, I think I texted it to you guys, Cam on Netflix, which, if you watch the trailer, it's not as, kind of salacious as you think it's going to be, but it was a cool, creepy, tense horror movie. So those are my recommendations.
I'll wait till we're on our podcast so I can swear at Joe about Cam. So,
yeah, bringing up Cam is a bold choice.
I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever, but I was just saying that, well, we'll fight them. That's a good teaser. Check us out. We're the Mobile Horror Companion at MobileHC666. Eugene's going to plug Valley Indy now. So,
yeah, follow us. Actually, don't follow us. I don't. We got enough followers. I don't need any more followers. Don't follow us on Facebook either.
Follow us. We need followers.
Yeah, all right. Go follow them, and then come back and complain about what I said to them on one of their podcasts. All right. So I want to thank you guys both. I know, Brian, you have to work in a couple of hours. Joe, you probably work today and have to go to work tomorrow. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time. to talk The Walking Dead.
That's fun.
with
I love hopping on with you guys. So,
all right, until next time.
see ya.